Oh, you noticed that. The simpleton doesn't.
I couldn't figure that out.
Thank God I was not the object of desire, because he was brutally tough on women.
From the kiss.
You said you'd never been kissed like that before.
No, I mean, this is really...
But it's true.
When my marriage to Steve fell apart, my kind of fairy dust started falling off.
She was America's sweetheart, the face of innocence on the silver screen. In Love Story, she captured the world's heart. But what few knew was that behind those luminous eyes lay silent pain. Her name was Ali MacGraw, and at the height of her fame, she stepped into a love affair that would both define and destroy her. The man she fell for was Steve McQueen, charismatic, dangerous, and impossible to resist. Their romance looked like a dream from the outside, but inside it was a maze of control, jealousy, and sacrifice. For years, Ali held her secrets close. Now, in her later years, she's peeling back the curtain, revealing how a fairy tale love became a cage. How much did she lose, and what did she finally find at the end? Stick around. Her truth is more powerful than fiction. Ali MacGraw didn't start in Hollywood. She grew up in Bedford Village, New York, inside a home rife with conflict and longing. Her father wrestled with alcoholism. Divorce and discord became the backdrop of her childhood. Young Ali learned early that silence often felt safer than speaking up. Still, she carried quiet ambition in her heart. Modeling became her escape, walking runway shows and getting noticed by influential figures like Diana Vreeland. From fashion, she leapt to film, her first role in Goodbye Columbus drawing attention from insiders who saw something fragile yet fierce in her. When Love Story hit theaters in 1970, the world recoiled in heartbreak. Love means never having to say you're sorry became more than a tagline. It became a tragedy lived out in real life. The film grossed over $100 million, turning Ali into a star overnight. Amid that success, she married Robert Evans, one of Hollywood's most powerful producers. She seemed to have it all: acclaim, connections, a family. But in just a few years, everything would crack under the pressure of ambition and infatuation. And then came The Getaway, Steve McQueen, and the moment her life changed forever. Before we move on, I have a small request to share your thoughts in the comments and like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Ali MacGraw's ascent felt almost accidental. After escaping a turbulent home, she carved a space for herself in New York's fashion world, starting behind the camera as a photo assistant before stepping in front of it. Her calm poise, expressive eyes, and quiet vulnerability made her stand out in an era defined by bold glamour. She wasn't the loudest or most daring. She was the kind of woman audiences wanted to understand. Under the mentorship of legendary Vogue editor Diana Vreeland, Ali's modeling work began catching attention beyond the fashion world. Filmmakers noticed her rare combination of fragility and intelligence. That curiosity led to her breakout role in Goodbye Columbus in 1969, a film that earned her a Golden Globe and placed her firmly on Hollywood's radar. Just 1 year later, Love Story would turn her into an icon. The film's tragic simplicity struck a nerve with audiences, and her portrayal of Jenny Barrett, radiant, tender, and doomed, became one of cinema's most enduring love stories. Almost overnight, Ali went from magazine covers to movie billboards across the world. Off-screen, she married Paramount executive Robert Evans, a man whose power matched her rising fame. For a brief moment, her life looked picture-perfect: a dream home, a loving husband, and the kind of success actors chase for decades. But behind the applause, a restlessness was growing. The quiet feeling that her story was only just beginning, and not all of it would end in light. By 1972, Ali MacGraw had everything Hollywood promised: fame, wealth, and a husband who helped build her career. But fate intervened in the form of a film called The Getaway, and its star Steve McQueen. McQueen was already a legend, a man who embodied danger and desire, known as the King of Cool. He wasn't just an actor, he was a myth walking on set, with the confidence of someone who had fought his way out of nothing. When Ali was offered the female lead opposite him, she hesitated. She was a wife and mother, and something about McQueen's intensity unnerved her. Yet curiosity won. From the moment they met on location in Texas, the chemistry was explosive. McQueen was magnetic, unpredictable, and thrilling in ways Robert Evans could never be. Ali later confessed that she felt in serious trouble the instant he looked at her. And she was right. What began as on-screen passion quickly spilled into real life. Hollywood reporters couldn't get enough of their affair. The tabloids called it a scandal, but audiences were captivated. The Getaway became a box office hit, fueled as much by their off-screen romance as the film itself. But while fans celebrated the passion, the personal cost was devastating. Robert Evans, the man who had discovered her, was blindsided, left to watch as his wife fell for another man under the bright lights he'd helped create. By the end of 1972, the fairy tale was in pieces. Ali filed for divorce, and her name became inseparable from McQueen's. What looked like love at first sight was the beginning of a love that would test her identity, her freedom, and everything she thought she wanted. In July 1973, Ali MacGraw married Steve McQueen, and for a moment, the world believed in their fairy tale. She was the elegant beauty from Love Story. He was Hollywood's ultimate rebel, the man every actor wanted to be and every woman wanted to tame. Together they looked unstoppable. But the dream cracked quickly. McQueen, scarred by a childhood of abandonment and distrust, brought his demons into their marriage. Beneath the charm and rugged confidence lay deep insecurity. He made it clear early on that there was room for only one star in the relationship. Before the wedding, he insisted Ali sign a prenuptial agreement and demanded she give up acting altogether. At the very peak of her fame, she walked away from Hollywood, not because she wanted to, but because she was terrified of losing him. In interviews years later, Ali admitted she became a cook, cleaning lady, and simple woman to the hilt, doing everything to keep the peace. Their Malibu home, once a sanctuary by the sea, became a gilded cage. McQueen's jealousy was relentless. He questioned her every move, every glance, every phone call. Yet the same man who demanded her loyalty openly flirted with other women and was rumored to have multiple affairs. The control was suffocating, but Ali stayed, hoping the man she fell for on the Getaway would return. Instead, she watched as her independence, the very spark that had made her famous, disappeared piece by piece. To the public, they were Hollywood royalty. Behind closed doors, she was fading into the shadows of his fame, learning the painful truth that love built on fear can never set you free. From the outside, their Malibu home looked like paradise. Ocean views, famous friends, the illusion of calm. But inside, it was a storm. Steve McQueen's childhood scars haunted every corner of their marriage. Abandoned by his father and neglected by his mother, he grew up expecting betrayal. Fame only amplified his paranoia. He couldn't stand the idea of anyone looking at Ali, much less talking to her. What began as love turned into control. If she smiled too long at another man, he exploded in jealousy. If she left the house without him, he demanded to know where she'd been. Ali, desperate to keep the peace, became smaller and quieter. She gave up friends, work, and eventually her sense of self. But control wasn't the only poison in their marriage. Addiction was the other. McQueen's drinking and drug use were no secret in Hollywood. He was volatile, unpredictable, and often disappeared for days on wild benders. Left alone, Ali found herself slipping into the same trap, turning to alcohol to numb her growing loneliness. What had once been passion turned into survival. She was living beside a man who could go from tender to terrifying in a heartbeat. The world saw a glamorous couple, but behind closed doors, silence and suspicion ruled their lives. McQueen's charm, the same energy that had drawn her in, now frightened her. She felt trapped in a cycle she couldn't escape, terrified that leaving him would mean losing everything, yet staying meant losing herself completely. The fairy tale had curdled into fear, and by the mid-1970s, something inside her had begun to break. By 1976, the cracks in Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen's marriage had become impossible to hide. The man once celebrated as Hollywood's rebel was now a prisoner of his own addictions. He drank heavily, used drugs freely, and filled their home with suspicion and rage. Nights often ended in silence or shouting, and mornings brought guilt that never lasted. For Ali, who had given up her career, her identity, and her voice to please him, the isolation became unbearable. She was no longer the woman who had captivated the world. She was a shadow of herself. Rumors of McQueen's infidelities swirled around Hollywood, and each new whisper cut deeper. When she finally confronted the reality that their marriage was built on control rather than love, she made the choice that terrified her most. She wanted her life back. In 1977, she told McQueen she intended to return to acting, hoping it might also help heal what was left of their marriage. Instead, he delivered his final blow. In that case, he reportedly said, "We're filing for divorce." The words ended 5 years of chaos, heartbreak, and unspoken fear. Ali accepted a role in Convoy, marking her first step toward reclaiming herself, though it also closed the door on them forever. 2 years later, their divorce was finalized. McQueen, still living recklessly, was diagnosed with mesothelioma, a rare and fatal cancer, and in 1980, at only 50, he was gone. When news of his death reached Ali, grief hit her harder than she expected. Despite everything, she still loved him. "I wish we had both grown old sober," she later said. A single sentence that captured both regret and forgiveness. For Ali, it wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the end of an era, the death of Hollywood's golden cool, and the beginning of a long journey back to herself. When Steve McQueen died in 1980, Ali MacGraw was only 41, but she felt decades older. His death left her hollow, grieving a man who had hurt her deeply, yet still occupied every corner of her heart. After years of suppression, guilt, and silence, she was left to face herself for the first time. But instead of peace, she found an emptiness she didn't know how to fill. Her drinking worsened, becoming both a comfort and a curse. Professionally, Hollywood had already moved on. She took small roles in films and television, including Convoy and a stint on Dynasty, but the sparkle that once defined her was gone. Casting directors saw her not as the radiant star of Love Story, but as a relic of another era. The rejection, combined with years of emotional damage, pushed her deeper into dependency. By the early 1990s, she hit a breaking point. Alone, exhausted, and facing the same demons that had consumed McQueen, she made a choice that would save her life. Ali checked herself into the Betty Ford Center, beginning the long, brutal process of recovery. For the first time, she confronted not just her addiction, but the pain buried underneath it. Her childhood instability, her lost career, and her years of living for other people. Out of that darkness came something extraordinary: clarity. She began journaling, meditating, and rediscovering who she was beyond fame and heartbreak. In 1991, she turned that reflection into her autobiography, Moving Pictures. A raw, unflinching look at her life. The book became a bestseller, not because it glamorized pain, but because it spoke to anyone who had ever felt broken and wanted to start again. When Ali MacGraw left Hollywood behind in the early 1990s, it wasn't an escape, it was a rebirth. She packed her life into a car and drove to Santa Fe, New Mexico, trading red carpets for desert sunsets. For the first time in decades, there were no cameras, no gossip columns, no scripts, just silence. And in that silence, she began to heal. Surrounded by mountains and open skies, Ali found what years in Hollywood had denied her: peace. She devoted herself to yoga, meditation, and a simple, intentional way of living. Each morning started with gratitude. Each evening ended in quiet reflection. Sobriety became her anchor, and with every year that passed, she grew stronger in her stillness. She tended to her garden, painted, and rescued animals. Small acts that brought her more joy than any film premiere ever had. By now, she had been sober for over 3 decades, a milestone she often describes as her proudest achievement. "I used to rewrite the past and fantasize about the future," she once said. "But now I just live." She never remarried, choosing instead to nurture her relationship with herself. In 2016, she reunited with Ryan O'Neal, her Love Story co-star, for a national stage tour of love letters. Watching them together felt like time folding in on itself, as if those two young dreamers from the 1970s had finally made peace with their past. For Ali, it wasn't nostalgia, it was closure. She no longer needed Hollywood's approval. She had found something rarer, a life she didn't need to escape from. Today, Ali MacGraw's life stands as a quiet masterpiece, not of fame or fortune, but of resilience. At 85, she no longer sees herself as the ingenue from Love Story or the woman who lived in Steve McQueen's shadow. She is a survivor, an artist, and a truth-teller. Her days in Santa Fe are filled with purpose, not publicity. She works with IBU, a women's fashion collective that partners with female artisans around the world, helping them achieve financial independence through craft and design. For Ali, it's more than philanthropy, it's redemption. After years of giving up her identity to fit someone else's vision, she now empowers others to claim their own. Her story has become a symbol of what it means to rebuild, not by erasing the past, but by understanding it. She often speaks candidly about her life with McQueen, never sugarcoating the chaos or denying the love. There were wonderful days and dreadful days, she has said. I'm not a victim in any way. That honesty has made her story endure far beyond Hollywood nostalgia. It's no longer about scandal or tragedy, it's about growth. For millions who grew up watching her, Ali MacGraw represents the strength to start over, to admit mistakes, and to keep searching for peace even after the applause fades. The woman who once embodied love means never having to say you're sorry now lives by a truer creed. That real love begins when you stop apologizing for who you are. Her life reminds us that the greatest comeback isn't returning to fame, it's finding yourself when no one's watching. Ali MacGraw's journey is more than a Hollywood love story. It's a human one. She lived through the dream that millions envied, only to discover how fragile it really was. Behind the glamour was a woman learning, breaking, and rebuilding herself piece by piece. From the dizzying highs of Love Story, to the private pain of her marriage with Steve McQueen, from addiction and loss to peace and renewal, Ali's life reminds us that healing doesn't happen in headlines. It happens in silence, one honest choice at a time. Today, she doesn't chase fame or nostalgia. Instead, she celebrates each sunrise, each breath, each moment of truth. Her story isn't about tragedy, it's about transformation. It's about what happens when a woman stops performing for the world and starts living for herself. So as we look back at her life, the love, the heartbreak, the resilience, it's worth asking, how many of us would have had the courage to walk away from everything just to find peace? If Ali's story moved you, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment below and tell us what part of her journey resonated with you most. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring Hollywood story. Because sometimes, the most powerful love stories aren't the ones written for the screen, they're the ones lived behind it.